Hey, it was only 5 seconds. Oh
That's
my
not
gosh.
long.
Hey everyone, what's popping? Welcome to, I guess, another variation of Soul Care Conversations.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
exciting. So I started Soul Care Conversations by myself, and then I was just like, no, let's do it with the team. Let's have these conversations. So each month, you're gonna get different people on the team that are part of the soul care team, where we're going to be having soul care conversations, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
We're gonna be talking about that. Are you excited, friend?
Yeah, man, this is exciting. I think this is, another extension of soul care and what we do,
Mm-hmm.
and another avenue for, people in the world to get to know us as individuals, to know the
Mm-hmm.
person behind the therapist and who they are and their perspective
Mm-hmm.
on other things that we don't get to talk about or may not have the opportunity to talk about in sessions because of how, client-centered, the work is. So, there's opportunities just to know our thoughts on certain topics, and who we are as
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
gonna be
I
fun.
agree. And I think that like it probably just won't all be like mental health focused, but I feel like
Yeah.
community and culture
Hmm.
and faith and
Hmm.
of course mental health and all of these different
Yeah.
types of things, but I think it would be
Yeah.
an intersectionality of
Yeah.
just like different conversations and
Right.
just different things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm excited. What makes you
Yeah.
excited about it?
Yeah. I think it's an opportunity for myself, but also other people on the team, to discover other aspects of themselves or just to
Mm-hmm.
launch out a bit more in something that they're already
Mm-hmm.
good at, So I think this podcast is going to give us just the opportunity to exercise some other strengths and other qualities that we have, so there are
Mm-hmm.
people on the team that are great at, blog posts and writing, but then there's other amazing communicators on our team, and this space, gives them that opportunity to just breathe in their strength essentially, so it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be really great. Yeah, yeah, so I'm excited to do that. I view myself more of a communicator. I guess I do a bit of writing here and there, but this, yeah, I'm excited about this. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that it will also, as I said, just give us space to just talk about different things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just like, as you said, like people to get to know us on a different level and
Hmm.
just I'm really excited to talk about different things. Like, yes,
Yeah.
in therapy, like, of course we talk about the client-centered things, but just like
Hmm.
some of those like I don't want to say maybe controversial topics that
Yeah.
do affect our clients in therapy. So
Right.
it's like, well, this might be affecting our community at large, and so then we will have an opportunity to
To
talk
address it.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to address it because I think that when we think about aspects of mental health in the Black community,
Hmm.
it is deeply political,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
right?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so, what was coming up for you there? You had the biggest grin on your face.
Yeah, I think it is deeply political because I think one of the things that came up for me was the aspect of like our generation versus like our parents' generation or a generation
Hmm.
older, and the things that we value now that they didn't value then, or the things that we question now that they just did because is what we do, is what we know, kind of thing. So I think about that aspect of just like how the mental health stigma is decreasing, as
Hmm.
generations go on, but also just that inner conflict of my experience versus who I want to be and the changes I want
Yeah.
to make. Just always, being in that political internal battle, essentially, of like, this is what I want to do, but this is what I know, essentially, and just having to
Yeah.
manage that from time to time. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's good. I think for me, like, one of the things that's like, that I've been journeying with clients on, and most of my clients are women. I would say 95% women. Do I
Okay.
have any males right now? Not many. So like let's
Mm,
say 98% women.
98. Fair.
98%. And like honestly, Nigel, like I've been journeying with so many black women and
Hmm.
reminding them to breathe.
Yeah, yeah,
To breathe, like, and
yeah,
it's so hard because I remember sitting with one client and it's like this juxtaposition of wanting to like walk and live in her creative outlet, but needing to live. So she's like, I need to work this corporate job even though I
yeah,
hate it,
yeah.
essentially. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that's political.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? That is this aspect of like generational wealth because maybe in other contexts, our white colleagues or counterparts, they would have that opportunity to be like, I'm gonna take a break. Some of them, I'm gonna take a
Hmm.
break because, I want to be able to do this thing. Whereas for us, like we are the builders of that generational wealth. And it's like we don't
Yeah.
have that like opportunity to take that break or to do that thing
Hmm.
because that's just not what we were afforded, on
Hmm.
our end and different things like that. So, yeah, I just really just think about how the aspect of mental health for Black folk, for the Black community, is
Yeah,
so deeply political. Like it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
nuanced with so many layers.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's especially in the context of like black women, like it's
Hmm.
always just going to be um that much more deeper from the social aspect compared to like a
Hmm.
black man in that regard.
Hmm.
So
But
yeah,
tell me about
yeah.
the Black man, though. How is it political for the Black man? I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, I think the black man is their internal experience is that aspect of managing the different roles and hats that they wear and wanting to be human, so to say, and
Hmm.
having a hard time managing that. And with that, or the connecting aspect is, expressing wants and needs, what that looks like for them
Hmm.
does what does me expressing this need, how does that impact your perception of me? How does that impact your
Mm.
role that I play in your life?
Yeah.
And, for husbands and fathers is always that aspect of provider. And like, we take pride in that being able
Mm.
to provide, but then what happens when
Mm.
we're providing, but we're also tired? Is there space for
Hmm.
my tiredness? Is there space for the things that I may need and want that caters to me or focuses on me and has nothing to
That's
do
so good.
with, wife or children in that moment. Right. So I think
Hmm.
it's the aspect of just like, how can I be a human?
So
Is there
good.
space for me to, yeah, is there space for me to breathe? Is there space for me to breathe and to be a human and not have
Yeah.
to always, be strong, always have to think about what's next? Is there an opportunity for me to consciously just sit and breathe and laugh and take in my
Mm.
environment and things like that, right?
So
But
good.
so I think, the black man, the black woman, I think that their experiences are similar. I think the
Hmm.
contexts are drastically, different. But I think there are a lot of similarities in terms of the desires that they want and where they just want to be as a human being. So yeah,
So
yeah,
good. I'm
yeah,
out about this podcast. Oh my
yeah. It's gonna be
goodness.
fun, man. It's gonna be
I'm
fun.
so
Yeah,
amped. I'm so
yeah.
amped because that's so good. It gives like a different perspective because I think about
Hmm.
even my own husband and like just all that he carries, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think sometimes like even when you're married or in a relationship, as the Black woman, you're thinking about all the things that you carry, and then
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, but the Black man carries a lot as well.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I just think that like spaces like this, like conversations like this can even help with generational healing and health
Hmm.
as it relates to marriages or any of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah. What were you
yeah,
gonna say?
yeah. No, I think one of the I don't want how I word it. I think one of the things that maybe traps the black man, and it's maybe something that we need to address is just like the the assumptions we make after assessment, essentially.
Mm,
So I think for the black man, before we ask for help, we assess in terms of what can I do to alleviate what I need, or if
Yeah.
I know I need to ask for help, I'm assessing, do you have the capacity of the bandwidth? Are you available? And
Yeah.
a lot of the times we show up for our spouse from the place of like what our moms experience. So I think that relationship between
Oh,
husband and
wow.
that may be an episode of itself, and just like how
Oh,
that shows up.
wow.
But I think
Mm-hmm.
for a lot, it's the aspect of like we make internal promises to ourselves, and then when we're now in that role, trying to fulfill those promises or maintain those promises, it can get weighty, it can get strenuous on us. And then when we
Yeah.
want to ask for help, we're assessing, okay, do you have the capacity to help me, to support me? And oftentimes, based on our assessment, we'll say no, so we'll remain silent. So we
Yeah.
try to, or we think that our silence is a form of support to the overall picture. If I don't
Mm.
say what I need, I'm not adding more to your plate. I'm not putting more on your shoulders. I'm in
Yeah.
our maybe in our mind, I'm alleviating.
Yeah.
The more silent I am is the more alleviation I'm offering, and where we're realizing, that's counterintuitive. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yes. So we're
Very,
learning. The black man is
yeah.
we're learning.
Yeah.
So and that does ties back into the needs, like
Yeah.
learning to express, embracing the aspect that you have a partner for your entire holistic life, not just for certain areas
Yeah.
of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the Black woman is learning that we can be um more soft
Mm,
because I think culture and life has taught us that we need to be hard. Um,
mm,
and has caused us to be hard and callous, to be honest.
yeah.
And so I think that a lot of Black women are stepping into like softness and
Hmm.
femininity, and not
Hmm.
based off of white Eurocentric standards, but like
Yeah.
what does that look like for the Black woman? You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And I know for women of faith like myself, what does that mean for the Black Christian woman? Oof. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
means like a life of submission and surrender
Hmm.
to the Father. But then there's also that healing of that relationship because some of
Hmm.
us grew up without our dads. So seeing God as Father is something that's like, oh, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is a good time to kind of like maybe talk about a little bit about us and what brought us to the work and just our
Hmm.
own lived experiences. So, do you want to go first?
Sure. Do you need me to introduce my whole self, including
Nah,
all my
nah, nah.
titles and
Just no,
everything,
no,
or just okay? Just
wherever
making
you want to
sure.
start. Just a little bit
Yeah,
about because we already we started swimming. We
we did. We really did. I was just like, "Ooh, okay."
like we went deep in already. So just
Yeah.
kind of like, a little bit about what brought us to the work and just like our own
Hmm.
lived experiences. Because as
Yeah.
I said, like my one of my favorite quotes is by Bell Hooks, "The personal is
Hmm.
political." I use
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
in every context, and I
Hmm.
believe that all of these different things intersect. So kind of like what
Yeah.
does that look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so a little bit about me for those who may not, I guess, even know my name. My name is Nigel. My name is
Let's
Nigel
start there.
Buckner. Yeah, my name is Nigel Buckner. I am one of the associated mental health therapists here at Soul Care. I'm also the intern practical manager here at Soul Care. I'm a
Hmm.
husband, father of one child, and we praise the Lord for that one child. We praise the Lord. Um, in addition to all of that, yeah, I'm a church baby. Grew up in church, all my life is what I know. Putting all of that in one side, I am a person who enjoys journeying with people. That has been something that I recognized from early, I would probably say from even like elementary school.
Wow.
That's something I just knew, and I think throughout my life, it's just been further confirmations of that I journey with people, and other things have
Mhm.
come along the lines with that. But I think in terms of like getting into this space, I think it really started for me in university kind of thing. I
Mhm.
knew I wanted to be in a space that I was helping people, where I was journeying with people.
Yeah.
I didn't know completely what that would have looked like, but I knew that's where I wanted to be. I knew that's where I would probably say like I needed to be. And I think I was just seeing that in my life, that I was just journeying with people, supporting people, giving them insight, giving them wisdom and things along those lines. And then it's someday, one day, I just realized, I don't have enough language. I don't have enough language
Mm.
to speak into what people are
Hmm.
navigating through, what they're going through. I was doing a great job. Like, people were still, confiding in me and all of those things. But
Yeah.
internally, I realized like I don't have enough language, and things. Wow, yeah. When I realized I didn't have enough language, conversations became burdensome because I wasn't sure what I was going to
Mm.
say anymore. I didn't
That's
know,
good.
where else this insight was going to come from. Of course,
Yeah.
trusting God and praying and everything, but I didn't know. So certain conversation I realized I was starting to or trying to stray away from. I was trying to not engage as often as I would have, or pulling back
Yeah.
just because I felt like I just didn't have it anymore. And then at that time, finishing school, meeting Kita and dating, courting and all that stuff, getting married. And one night, as married folks, we have those heart to heart conversations and, what
Yeah.
life is going to look like. And I remember that conversation in October of 2018,
Hmm.
2019, actually.
2019, because you
Yeah,
guys got married in
20,
2018, right?
2018. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was
Mhm.
2019 October, and remember we came from Empower and Equipped with Raquel Brown, sat in the car,
Mm.
and we were just like, yeah, something needs to change for the things that we want to do and accomplish.
Mm.
And it was then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to school. So made
Hmm.
that decision, applied, got in, and yeah, started school in 2020 for my master's. In 2020, we all know the world was upside down, with COVID and everything that we were
What
experiencing.
a
And
time, eh?
what a time. But it's so crazy. And I think this is like the nuance of like how things could be crazy for one person, or someone's experience in one area could be a great thing for you in another. So as bad as like COVID was, and there was so much grief
It
that
was actually
people
a
were
great time
experiencing,
for me.
it
I
was
can't lie.
a great time.
I
Because
cannot
in
lie.
yeah, like in my world, it was like 2020. Nolan was on the way. He came in November. I
Yeah.
started school September, and just the way life was at the pace was great for me,
Yeah.
becoming a
Same.
father and starting school, finishing my program and everything. It was a great time, so I was
Yeah.
able to, I remember, Nikita's in labor, we're in the hospital, I'm there writing papers and sitting
That's
next to her, and I'm just
actually
like,
crazy.
yeah, but that was the life. I had
Yeah.
assignments to do, like school
Yeah.
didn't stop when Nolan came. Like I
Wow.
just had to figure it out, become more strategic with my time and schedule and everything. But say all that to say, finish my master's and got into this space, and I love where I'm at. I love being
Hmm.
able to journey with people. I love being able to show up in this space, and I love the language that I've gained over the years through the educational side, but also the spiritual side, but also just engaging with clients. Clients
Yeah.
sometimes
I learned
offer
so
you
much from
gems
clients.
so much, learn so much from clients. So I think for me, like the overall journey has just been so great, and I love the trajectory that Soul Care is on, but also for me, like where I'm at and the goals that I have. Yeah, so that is me in a nutshell. That's where I'm at. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's me.
That's so
Hmm.
exciting. I love that. Can I just talk about how my heart is full right now? Like
Yeah.
this is giving me like all warm, fuzzy feelings.
Mm,
I love it. I
hmm.
think we're gonna have a great time doing this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I think
No
that
worries.
like it's important, like, for those who we don't get to do those introductions when
Yeah,
we are doing
yeah,
consultations,
yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's about the client. But I think
Mm,
like spaces like these can give the client kind of like oh, this is where my therapist was, and this is what they've navigated through, and different
Hmm.
things like that. So thanks for sharing, and you've
Yeah.
come out on the other side, and you're a really dope therapist. Your clients are
Thank
lucky
you.
to have you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
As for me and me,
Mm,
um,
hmm.
so my name, as you know, you probably know by now, is Jessica. Why am I getting emotional? Oh my goodness. I am the proud founder and clinical director of Soul Care
Hmm.
Counseling and Consulting. And all of my everything brought me here, all of the trauma,
Yeah.
the growing up in poverty, growing up in church, and seeing that there was an issue with my mental health, my mom, different things like that. Like I was very intuitive from a very
Mm,
young age. Like my mom said, when I was maybe about 5 or 6, like, she was going through a lot. I grew up seeing a lot of domestic abuse, a lot of violence, different things like that in
mm,
in our home.
yeah.
And my mom said one day she was crying and I wiped her tears and I said, Mommy, it's not gonna always be like this.
Wow.
Who says that at
Yeah.
5?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
saw a quote on Threads the other day, and it
Hmm.
said, those little sensitive kids, they're the ones who turn around and teach people about being sensitive and holding space. And I'm like, yeah, I'm
Hmm.
I'm a therapist, you know?
Yeah.
And so I grew up, I'm the eldest daughter of three. And I practically raised my brothers, again, that
Yeah.
political piece, because my
Hmm.
mom had to work, so I held a lot. I've carried a lot for a long time in my life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
from like from like age 6, 7, 8, I'm
Hmm.
cooking, I'm
Hmm.
cleaning, I'm changing, like some of the things, like when I had my daughter, I was saying to Princeton, I was like, I actually remember doing this like
Wow.
with my youngest brother,
Younger
and we're only
brother.
five
Wow.
years apart, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
taking care of him and different things like that. But you know, that's been my life's journey,
Hmm.
and trigger warning, going through childhood sexual abuse, just
Hmm.
different things like that. All of these different layers has led me to the work that I
Yeah.
do. And it's just such a breath of fresh air. Like I love, and I can't say so far there hasn't been a client journey that I can't necessarily relate to in some context.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like God
Hmm.
has just like it's just bring all of, and I'm like, wow, like this is powerful. So I'm not only able to meet my clients from like a professional standpoint, but also an empathetic standpoint, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Peter Levine, he talks about being an empathetic witness. And I just
Mm.
count it such an honor to be an empathetic witness for the
Yeah.
people that I journey with. Because it's just like, um, I've been there. I've been
Yeah.
there, or I'm journeying through that, or I have journeyed through that. And of
Hmm.
course, you don't share what you don't need to share, but like I find that there's this deeper level of empathy
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
I am able to hold from my clients, because it's like I know what that feels like.
Feels
I
like.
I
Yeah.
know what that sounds like. I can
Yeah.
relate. Like, I get it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Hmm.
so that's what has brought me to the work. Um, so Soul Care was birthed in 2021, but the Lord began to speak to me about it in 2020. 2020 was a
Hmm.
was a good time for my
Yeah.
family
Hmm.
personally. The Lord,
Yeah.
and I think that speaks to what God can do in the life of the believer when there's chaos around.
Yeah.
There's something beautiful he could do in the midst of that. But that'll
Yeah.
preach, but we'll leave that alone. But like I remember in the midst of the pandemic, there were so many things that were happening, and I remember just sitting down. I remember saying, me and the Lord talking. I'm like, people don't need self-care, because there was a lot of self-care content. I was like,
Yeah.
people need
Yeah.
soul care.
Hmm.
Like I didn't even know where that language came from, and I remember watching a sermon, I think
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
Sunday, and the preacher was talking about soul care, and I was like, well, if that isn't my confirmation. And then people
Yeah.
kept asking me like, just do you do
Mm,
therapy? And I was like,
mm.
not yet,
Right.
and
Right.
I did a coaching program, and then I launched,
Hmm.
and it started with just me, and now there's what, like seven of us? I don't even know. There's a lot of us, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's
Yeah.
a bunch of us.
Yeah.
But Third John 1 and 2,
Hmm.
above all, I wish that your soul would prosper and be well, because I
Yeah.
believe that it is the will of the Father that we are well, and this is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
soul care is all about. So
Hmm.
it's a what would I call it? It's a mosaic, I would say.
Hmm.
Is mosaic the right word? Of like all of our collective experiences coming
Experiences. Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of soul care.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
absolutely agree. Like, there's just
Yeah.
our team is not even just like the wealth of knowledge, but the wealth of experiences, and
Yeah.
our knowledge mixed with our experiences, we're able to reach a specific demographic,
I
right? Like,
agree.
so of course, we pride and gracefully have the opportunity to, serve the Black community, but there's so many different experiences within the Black
Yeah.
community that
Yeah.
I think, each of our, therapists with their skill set, are able to speak to that,
Yeah.
so Anita, who does like, art therapy as a
Yeah.
Black woman, can speak to
Yeah.
certain things that like I
Yeah.
can't do. I
Yeah.
don't care for art. I get on my
Yeah.
wall. That's all I do. But she's able to reach certain people, and Josh
Yeah.
and his experiences, Raquel, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everyone with their unique experiences is able to reach their demographic of people. And I think that
Yeah.
just speaks to how beautiful, soul care is, and just the growth from that,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And as we
Mhm.
continue to expand, I just love what we all bring to the table. Um, so Nigel, I think here's a good place to kind of transition into just our
Mhm.
own personal healing journeys and like what that
Yeah.
has been like for us. So what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I think right off the bat, it's a journey that I'm still on. I think right
Oh,
off the
that's
bat,
good. Yeah,
yeah, can
yeah,
definitely say that. I think every the more I reflect on the journeys, the more I can identify progress. But I think right now, what my journey has been like, I think it's been more relationally. I think
yeah.
there's been a lot of healing relationally
So
that I've
good.
had to do, especially over the last 18 months. I think that
Hmm.
is where a lot of that healing has come from. And
Hmm.
I know that I'm healing because I'm responding differently. And I
So
think
good.
that
What do you say you're
is important.
responding differently? What do
So
you mean?
so there are things that
Sorry, the
uh,
therapist came out in me. I was
oh,
like,
I
oh,
know this
that
this
was
is
a
what
good entry point.
this is
When you say you're
what do
responding
you mean by
differently?
that?
What do you mean
Yeah,
by
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. This is what we do. This is what we do. So it's fine. Yeah, but I think for me it's been, things that I would have ran away from, I'm now embracing. Things
Ooh,
that I would have
okay.
shied away from, I'm now saying it, taking it on. And I think one of the things that I probably realized towards the ending, either the beginning of this year or towards the ending of last year, was just the aspect of like, I can't fight what my soul needs anymore. I can't
Ooh,
fight against that anymore.
come on, soul care.
So yeah, yes, okay.
Yeah,
So I've been in
yeah.
that place of just like, this is what my soul needs, and I have to submit to that essentially. I have
So
to give
good.
that what it
Whew.
needs. So I've been in that place now of just giving my soul what it needs relationally. So I'm now embracing, male relationships, but also deepening those male relationships, because
Yeah,
that is an area of relationship that's been a sore one for me in terms of
yeah,
abuse
yeah,
and things that I've experienced that started from young, started
yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
young. And I think that aspect of, I'm the eldest of my siblings and I have two sisters. So that older brother aspect is something like I've never experienced. So I've always
Mm,
confided. in older men, and older men for that. And a lot of them have dropped me. A lot of them have dropped the ball with
Uh,
that, and there's memories of that even to this day, I still find myself thinking about every so often. It
yeah,
flashes across my mind. And one of the things that, you know, the Holy Spirit kind of brought to my understanding towards the ending of last year is like, while there were men that dropped you, you can reflect and account for the men that showed up. You
that's
can account
good.
for the men that
Yeah,
did actually show up for you. It may not have been long, but it was almost a conviction of the Holy Spirit saying, like, you can't say every male relationship has been bad. There have
yeah,
been male relationships in your
that have
in
been
that
good.
you've had
Yeah,
that have been good. There have been people in your
yeah,
life that males that have poured into you. So it's been that journey of just healing, relationships I have with males and understanding that like I do need that in my life. And I think why I started off by saying like, I'm still on that journey because while I've been intentional with building, the vertical relationships horizontally, that's still a sore one.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
something I'm still managing of like I got my peers, but now I need some oversight. I need someone older, I need that
Mm,
his walk is
that's
out.
good.
And it's not to say that they're not there. They're there, but now it's like, okay, you need to access
Yeah,
them. You need to
yeah,
start
yeah,
having
yeah.
these conversations more frequently. So that's been like
Mhm.
my personal like healing journey in that area in terms of like, this is the journey that I've been on. This is what it has been looking like. And it's tough. There's a lot of internal conversations you're having. There's a lot of verbal conversations that
Yeah.
you're having, and it's identifying your patterns. We're great at, lying to ourselves. We're great at telling ourselves we don't need something.
Yeah,
We're really great. And I think for me, it's been exploring why do I say that so quickly? What
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
is what is the reason that comes out of my mouth so quickly? What am I avoiding? What is it that is still a sore spot for me, kind of thing? What
That's
what am I
good.
what am I telling myself that's gonna happen that hasn't happened yet? Or is not
Yeah,
gonna happen, kind of thing. So it's been a lot of that experience, but again, I'm still on the journey and I'm loving it. I'm loving where I'm at now in that space. Yeah, and I just know the growth will continue. Yeah.
yeah. That's so good. That's so good. Thanks for sharing that. That's so
Yeah,
good.
thank you.
Um, I think for myself, the two
Yeah.
areas, and I love that you talked about the fact that you're still on the journey. And I think that gives people permission to know that
Yeah.
healing is not a destination.
Absolutely not.
It's a
Yeah.
journey. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like, are there marker moments along the journey? Yes, I do believe so, but it's not a destination. It is a
Right.
journey. I think
Right.
that our full healing will come when we are in heaven.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Because we
yeah.
live in a fallen world. I
Hmm.
think how we manage things will be different as we grow and as we mature. I was sitting with my clinical supervisor the other day and she looked at me and she said, Jess, you're so young. And I was like, and it's funny because I get it, because I look at other people who are younger than me and I'm like, oh, you're so young, you know? So I get it. And thanks for
Hmm.
sharing that. And because I feel like people are just like, well, when do I know like I'm healed? When do I know that I'm at that place? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And it's just
yeah.
like there's no place. Like
Right.
it's a continued journey. Like the journey will feel lighter, I
Hmm.
think,
Hmm.
along the way, but
Hmm.
like I think it's more than that. Like it
Yeah.
continues, you know? It's
Hmm.
not linear, you know?
Right. Right.
Um So I think for me, the two areas, of my healing journey has been my mind and my identity,
Hmm. Hmm.
that I feel like the Lord continues to work on. Like, and our mind, how we think affects how we view ourselves and how we
Yeah.
view
Yeah. Yeah.
others, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so I think for me, it's been my mind and my identity. Like, if the enemy could have a stronghold and a fortress in my mind, he would.
Hmm.
And so the Lord continues to heal my mind. But that seed was planted, trigger warning, when I was young, in
Hmm.
so many different areas, whether it was through the childhood sexual abuse, whether it was through emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical
Yeah.
abuse, all of these things, there's a seed that's planted that says, you're not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
or it's your fault, or you're not worth anything, and these different type of
Mm-hmm.
things. And ever so often, the enemy will come with those thoughts. And before and then it used to manifest itself as depression and as
Yeah.
anxiety and as overworking and trying to find my identity in different things. And over time, I'm watching the Lord just heal that and just uproot that and uproot certain ideologies that I would
Mm-hmm.
have about myself, which would then, because I think sometimes, like, when we have things about ourselves and we don't realize how we project that onto other people,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're being critical of yourself. You're either going to do one of two things. You're either going to be really critical of somebody else, or you're
Mm-hmm.
just going to like be a complete people pleaser. That's what
Yeah.
I've that's what I've seen, and I've
Mm-hmm.
seen myself go down both lanes and both areas, and I'm just watching, myself just like have more grace with myself, give myself permission to
Mm-hmm.
be, not for things to be. And I think it's hard to give a lifeline of the entire journey. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say where I'm at on the journey right now, like you said, Nigel, just like giving myself permission. I've given myself permission to be, to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
to exhale, to
Yeah.
drop my shoulders, to not
Mm-hmm.
have it all together. My
Mm-hmm.
inbox is gonna be full. It's okay. Like, it's not urgent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
my house doesn't have to look like a show home. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Like, the child's gonna have toys everywhere. There's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
laundry. Like, just things like that that like
Yeah.
before would drive me nuts. Cause like I would say to people, and it still happens a little bit, like a messy space dysregulates me. Like,
Okay. Okay.
baby.
Yeah.
Like like it just I squirm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's like part true and part growing up. My mom, she don't play that. Like, if you go
Mm.
to my mom's house right now, you could go to my mom's house unannounced.
Yeah.
The place is always perfectly aligned and clean. Always, Nigel. And that's just how we were brought up. So there's this
Yeah.
notion in my head that this needs to be the case, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
my mom,
Mm-hmm.
of course, like she did her best and she did her best with what she had. But we
Mm-hmm.
were just raised to be just very on top of things, very like, just very line upon line, precept upon precept. Like,
Yeah.
every T needed to be crossed and every I needed to be
Mm.
dotted, because if
Yeah.
it's not, then it's like, and so you grow up with this pressure of feeling
Mm-hmm.
like this is what it needs to be, and
Right.
this is something I've carried out in my own life, right? And it's kind of like if I saw other people around me that weren't doing it, it was either I was critical or I just was a people pleaser. It's like, oh, it's okay,
Mm.
don't worry. So
Mm-hmm.
then there would be no boundaries. So all of these things, it's like I would say my big word right now is permission,
Okay.
like permission. So I'm gonna share something. This is deeply personal for me.
Okay. All right.
So um, I had a baby 2 years ago. My beautiful baby girl, JL.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Uncle Nigel is her godfather.
Yes, I
So
am.
we're not just therapist colleagues, but we're actually friends. We're actually
Yeah.
family. We're
Yeah.
godparents to each other's children, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? So ever since I've had my baby, and this is big for the black woman, so the black woman will get this. Ever since I've had my baby, my hair has not been the same.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
has
I hear
not
that.
been the same.
I hear
The
that.
Whether I've lost edges or it just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't flourishing and blooming like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hit up on this point where like I was just like, I don't know what to do with my hair. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna just go low, but I'm like, I'm gonna look like a big dude. Like, I just like, I don't know what to do with it. And
Yeah.
on Monday, so Mondays are my Sabbath. So Mondays are my
Mm-hmm.
days just to just,
Mm-hmm.
relax, because every
Yeah.
other day I'm doing something. And so I was like, oh, I have to do my hair. And immediately there was a mindset shift. There was a
Mm-hmm.
reframing that I felt like the Holy Spirit led me through. It was just like, your hair care is a part of your soul care.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Uh,
was like, oh.
yeah.
So in my head now, that reframed it. Like I took my time, I deep
Yeah.
conditioned. And Nigel, the emotions that were coming up for me,
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
not expecting to feel so deeply connected to
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
through doing my hair in that, because I've always done my hair, but there was
Yeah.
something different. I think because of the
Mm-hmm.
journey, and it was just this like healing of like my identity in this season as a
Mm-hmm.
mom and what
Mm-hmm.
that looks like. And then
Wow.
I ventured out to braid my hair myself because I
Okay.
was like, I'm not going to the hairdresser. We trying to
Every
save
single
our
time.
coins.
Yeah.
Yeah, over it's not even time, it's that money. It's that
Yeah.
moolah. We trying to save that money. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I washed my hair, I deep conditioned it.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the hair store, I was like, I'm gonna venture out and I braided my hair. And that was so healing for me
Mm-hmm.
to be able to connect to my hair. And again, that's another thing. All the therapist women, we could probably have a conversation around Black women and hair because it's so
Mm-hmm.
political. Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if your hair looks like this, like it's not a standard of beauty. If it's too short, if it's this, if it's too long, is it your hair?
Yeah.
All of these different types of things. And so, saying all that to say, I saw how that was an intersectionality of the healing of my mind and my
Mm-hmm.
identity. Like, I cannot express to you the accomplishment I felt in braiding my hair and be like, this is actually
Yeah.
cute. Like, I'm
Yeah.
feeling myself. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
also want to this healing piece is also a part of my relationship with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
What conversations, soul care conversations,
Yeah.
what language am I teaching her about her hair and the
Mm-hmm.
importance of taking care of her hair? So it's like, well, mommy takes care of my hair because, we go in on JL's hair, but mommy, how
Mm-hmm.
come you don't take care of your hair? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And JL is
Mm-hmm.
giving, she's going to ask a lot of questions and challenge
Oh
me.
yeah.
She's
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah. It's just gonna happen. Yeah.
she's giving that, and I'm just really, and now Nigel, language, when she looks
Mm-hmm.
in the mirror, she's like, I'm so cute.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
so cute. Oh, her hair, she's like, beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful, you know? I'm so cute, so nice.
Yeah.
I want her to
Mm-hmm.
continue to have that language, and not
Mm-hmm.
just for herself, but also for how I model that for me. you
Mm-hmm.
know so
Mm-hmm.
as the Lord heals my mind, continues to heal, wow, not my voice going, as the Lord continues to heal my mind and my identity, I
Yeah.
see how that's going to show up in relationship with my daughter. So that's where I'm at on my personal healing journey, and I hope
Yeah.
that what you guys were able to gather from this is that, like, this is not a destination.
Yeah.
The journey continues.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Here's a story. I don't even know if I told you this, but when you guys were pregnant, of course, and Jill was on the way, we had the privilege of, knowing the gender. And y'all,
Um,
when I opened that and saw that it was a girl, I was like,
oh,
oh, Jess, here we
oh,
go. I was like, oh boy.
yeah,
But I think it was maybe after we did the gender reveal. I don't remember exactly what I said to you, but I think I something along the lines of like, Jess, you've prepared for this, like you've
yeah,
healed for this,
yeah,
so you
yeah,
are actually going to be okay. It's gonna be a lot, like a lot is gonna
yeah,
come up, absolutely,
yeah,
but like you've
yeah,
done your part, you've done
yeah,
your part of healing for JL and the experience you have with her. So yeah,
yeah.
I get it.
Giving a little context to that, y'all, I was heavy on having a boy first,
Okay.
because of my experience as being an older daughter and
Mm,
a big sister. I was like, I'm
yeah,
good. Like, let's have that
yeah,
boy first to kind of change it up.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
remember 2 nights before the gender reveal, the Lord gave me a dream that it was a girl. And I was like, man, I must have ate late. And when I saw it was a girl, I was so
Yeah.
shooketh. And you know, the next day I cried, not
Yeah.
because I was sad that it was a girl, but because all of those things of little girl just came up, like
Yeah.
but my hair, my skin, my
Yeah.
identity, all of these
Yeah.
things that infiltrated my mind and my
Yeah.
personhood and who I am. Like I was just like, bro, I started like I'm gonna kill anybody. Like I started just going
Yeah.
off, and it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
I had to call my therapist, and you know,
Mm.
the therapists have therapists.
Yes, we do. We do.
Yes,
We
we
go to
do.
therapy. We
In
do.
my opinion, I believe better therapists. How am I saying this? In my opinion, I believe that people, therapists who have gone to therapy are better therapists.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah.
I, in my opinion, because it's like if you've never been in a chair, you don't know what it feels
It
like.
feels like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
my
yeah.
opinion,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
humble opinion.
I agree with
Um,
that. I agree with
yes.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's just a little context there of just how, the Lord has been using my
Hmm.
sweet baby JL to just continue our relationship to heal, to nurture, to,
Yeah.
heal my inner child and different things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I love
Me
that. Yeah.
too. And I just
This
love
is
watching
great.
you with Nolan. The marathon continues, I say it
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah, man. Meta
Yeah.
continues. Little
I
Nipsey there.
love it. I love it. I love what God is
Yeah.
doing in our generation with the
Hmm.
generational healing. I think it's so beautiful to see. I love how intentional our generation
Hmm.
is and just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah.
love
We're
it.
we're doing things differently. We've committed to do things differently that
Yeah.
maybe goes against what we know and goes against what we've
Yeah.
experienced, and we're giving ourselves the permission to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
I
Hmm.
agree. All right. Well, we've been talking for 46 minutes.
Have we now? I see
I
nothing on that.
know. And we have come to the end of our first Soul Care Conversations
Yeah.
episode.
This is great.
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
And I pray that it is a blessing to those who listen, watch, wherever we may be, wherever you find this podcast.
Hmm.
Nigel, do you have any final words for those who are listening in or watching in?
Yeah, as you guys know, like this was the first episode. There is absolutely more to come. We are
Yeah,
really just getting started. There are so
yeah,
many topics that we want to talk about, so many topics that will just come up because of what's happening in the
yeah,
world or what
yeah,
we've experienced in our clinical work. So just stay tuned for that. And yeah, I think one of the things you can take away from this is like we're all humans. We're all on
yeah,
some sort of journey. That's really what it is. We're all on some sort of journey, and we have come farther or further than we think we have. So can stay
yeah.
committed to the journey. Yeah,
That's good. I love that.
absolutely.
Stay committed to the journey. Your therapist, we practice soul care too.
Yeah.
We don't just try to make you do it
Yeah, no, we
or
we with there
support
with you. We're
you.
in the trenches with you
Yeah,
guys.
we're in it
Yeah.
with you.
Hmm.
And giving ourselves permission to continue to heal.
Yeah.
And healing is a journey. It is
Yeah,
not a destination.
absolutely.
But we journey together, and the Lord journeys with us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love
And if you
that.
want to find us, you can find us on Instagram at,
Hmm.
I think it's the Soul Care Therapist. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
believe
the
so.
Soul Care
Yeah.
Therapist.
Look at
You
us.
can find me at I am She Speaks Truth. Nigel, what's yours again? The Nigel Book here?
This is Nigel. I think I have one underscore. I don't remember,
Yeah, yeah.
guys. You just
Something
find
of
me.
that
You'll be fine.
sort.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll put some stuff in the show notes and then we'll take it
Hmm.
from there. All right.
Absolutely.
Love you guys. It is the will of the
Peace.
Father that you are well, and we'll
Yeah.
catch you in the next episode.
Take care, guys.